You ever look at the world and wonder why some people just seem to have all the luck while others can't catch a break? Yeah, we usually just chalk it up to random chance. But what if it's not random at all? Today, we're diving into a really fascinating perspective that says the universe is constantly sending us signals, and that both good fortune and bad are really just part of a curriculum. Let's explore this idea that our lives are less about random chaos and more about a universal classroom. I mean, just look at the extremes. On one hand, you've got stories that are just unbelievable, like a man who was literally a lightning rod, getting zapped 5 times. He was even struck in his grave. Then, on the other hand, you have people who win the lottery, not once, but multiple times. It seems like the very definition of random luck and misfortune, right? But is it really just luck? Or are these wild examples maybe pointing to something deeper going on? Some kind of hidden order that's governing the events in our lives, making them less about chance and more about, well, something else entirely. And what's really interesting is when you start looking for patterns, you see them everywhere. The person who gets in a car accident, they often have another one. Someone who gets sick finds themselves back in the hospital again and again. Even on the bright side, that quiz show champion is probably going to win again. And get this, why do 90% of lottery winners, people who get this massive stroke of good luck, end up broke? These aren't just one-off stories, they're recurring themes. So, what's the connection here? Okay, so this is where the philosophy we're exploring today offers a pretty compelling alternative. It suggests these repeating events aren't luck at all, they're lessons. In this view, life is basically a training ground. At the very heart of this idea is the Korean term Jungbub. Now, if you know Korean, you probably hear that and think of hitting the books, studying for a test. But in this context, it means something way deeper. It's about the required lessons or the training that life itself is giving you. And here's the crucial shift in perspective. A misfortune, whether it's a car wreck or a sudden illness, isn't some random, cruel punishment from a chaotic universe.
Instead, think of it as a tailor-made curriculum. It's a set of experiences that are perfectly designed to teach you something absolutely essential for your own growth. Every single challenge is a subject you have to master.
In this curriculum, it can show up in all kinds of ways. It might be a health scare that forces you to totally reevaluate your life, or maybe it's falling for a scam that teaches you a hard lesson about trust. It could even be a hereditary disease in your family, presenting a generational lesson that needs to be understood. So, how do these lessons actually pop up in our lives? Well, according to this framework, they don't just appear out of thin air. They follow a pretty clear pattern we can call the proximity principle. Basically, they start far away and get closer and closer. So a lesson often starts off at a distance. You'll see a news story about, say, financial scams. That's stage 1. Then it gets a little nearer. A close friend calls you, totally distraught because they just got scammed. That's stage 2. Now, if you just brush these off as things happening to other people, the lesson hasn't landed. And that's exactly when it arrives right on your doorstep and you get to experience it firsthand. And this leads to a really powerful idea. Everything you see and hear is yours. What that means is the information that flows into your life, the news you watch, the stories your friends tell you, it's not just random noise. It's all part of your personal curriculum. It's a signal. The consequence is pretty simple then. If you don't pay attention to the lesson when it's just information, you'll be forced to deal with it when it becomes a direct personal experience. The universe, from this point of view, makes sure you get the message one way or another. All right, now here is where things get really counterintuitive. This philosophy suggests that there can actually be a hidden danger in what we normally think of as good deeds, like charity or volunteering. The key here isn't about the act of helping itself, it's about the mindset behind it. If you go visit someone who's sick, or you volunteer for the needy with this attitude of, I am the healthy, fortunate one, here to help you, the unfortunate one, you are completely missing the point. You're failing to ask the most important question. What is their situation meant to teach me? And the consequence for this, according to this philosophy, is pretty severe. By failing to learn the lesson that's being presented to you through someone else's hardship, you basically sign up for that lesson yourself. You put yourself on the path to eventually becoming the one who needs that exact same kind of help. You can even see this principle playing out on a huge societal scale. The source we're looking at points out that after World War II, while the general population in many developed countries roughly doubled, the number of people needing welfare assistance exploded.
growing by tens or even hundreds of times. This insane, disproportionate growth is seen as a collective failure to learn the lesson of real empathy. When a society starts to see those in need as other people, the problem itself just gets bigger and bigger, demanding our attention on a massive scale. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? It's really about a fundamental shift in how we see the world and our role in it. It's the idea that everything that happens for a reason, and that reason is your education. This quote just perfectly captures the core belief here. This isn't some sloppy, random system we're living in. It's precise. The universe doesn't make mistakes. Every single event, every piece of information that finds its way to you is perfectly calibrated for your journey. Nothing is out of place. Ultimately, this entire philosophy really boils down to this one single, actionable shift in your thinking. When you hear about a friend's tough time or see a tragedy on the news, the challenge is to move past that initial thought of, wow, that's terrible for them, and to ask a much deeper question. What is this trying to teach me, right here, right now? Because if none of this is an accident, then all the patterns in your own life, the challenges that keep coming up, the information you keep stumbling upon, the problems you see in the world, they're all part of a conversation. And that leaves us with one final question for you. What lesson is your life trying to teach you right now?